So I've got a Michigan fan here, and I've been trying to ask this for weeks. Why is Michigan favored in this game against Alabama? Okay, I see no path why Michigan should be favored in this game. I saw an article from Yahoo Sports about a week ago, and I'm sure the numbers have changed. 80% of the money against the spread or 80% of the money is on Alabama straight up. 93% of the money is on Alabama plus the points.
Yep.
So a large portion of people are taking Alabama.
Okay.
That seems kind of odd because the line has only dropped a half a point since it opened.
Yep.
So if those numbers are true, you'd think Bama would actually, not only would Michigan not be favored, Bama would be favored with those numbers.
Well, yes. Actually, when I was preparing for Michigan podcast, usually Steve Day sends me a little email and just usually sends me like one little tidbit. And that was it. It was actually about that betting situation that you just outlined where the line is not moving, even though all this money is coming in on Bama, which isn't necessarily a good indicator. Okay, first of all, I'll let everyone know I enjoy the analytics of the betting, and I enjoy talking about it, but I'm no expert by any stretch. I have knowledge in it, but I am nowhere close to being any kind of handicapper expert guy. But I think there is no reason, from what I understand, to be overly confident if the public's betting in one direction. The public is fickle and really doesn't know what it's doing. So I'm not saying they're wrong all the time, but I'm just saying it's kind of random. Like they're right half the time, they're wrong half the time. They really don't know what they're doing. So the public money, based on everything I understand from the feedback I've seen, is inconsequential to determining, oh, the public thinks Bama's going to win. Oh, then we know that there's a reason for that. Bama must be winning this game.
This would have to be the first time I could think of where, I mean, if DeReal's numbers are right, where the betting is skewed that much in a direction with the line not moving hardly at all. That's the first time I've ever heard of.
What has Michigan done this year? I know they've won every game, literally every game. But I would argue Michigan has looked worse against Ohio State and about the same as Penn State as last year. But yet they're favored against a team that I think is honestly better, at least more talented, and got a better coach than they have last year.
Oh, okay. I'll go ahead and take this one. Well, let's just say, we're first of all, the main one, like you said, is 0 losses versus 1 loss. Okay. Now, Michigan is a top 20 offense. They are the number 1 defense. Have we played the best offenses? No argument there. However, Alabama has not really played a whole bunch of great defenses either, and they're right around the same area. I think we're both like right in the high teens for points per game scored. So, and so we're doing it against top defenses. Alabama, not so much. I mean, Georgia's a pretty good defense, but they haven't played Alabama has not played a whole lot of good defenses. Now, for defenses, I mean, it doesn't matter who you play. For a team to be top 10 in points, yards, passing yards, and rushing yards, all 4 of the majors to be that's hard. You have to be a legit defense to be top 10 in all 4 of those categories.
These are the best defenses Alabama faced this year statistically. Texas A&M number 9, Georgia 10, Texas 23, Tennessee 40, Mississippi State 42, Kentucky 44, Ole Miss 59. The worst, South Florida 131, LSU 104, Middle Tennessee 90. I only have this handy because I am going to be producing a video comparing everybody's stats.
And they scored 17 against South Florida. That's a pretty bad indictment.
Yeah, but Mike, if you watch that game, honestly, I think Alabama quit in that game. I think without Jalen,
the rain didn't help either.
I understand that, but I'm not a Big Ten fan, so I don't talk about the weather. But I think without Jalen Milroe there, they just didn't want to play the game. I think the players wanted Jalen Milroe to be their quarterback, and they decided we're not going to try at all. We're so much better than South Florida. We don't even have to put an effort, and we're going to win this game. That's honestly what I think happened. Because I can't think of another logical reason Alabama can be that bad against a team that worse than them. honestly, I thought it was impossible what happened on that football field for how bad they played. Alabama probably should have lost that game. If they played 110 teams in the country, so I think Alabama would have lost that game.
Yeah, like I say, they weren't going to lose against South Florida no matter what they did. But so that aside, I mean, there were still games, like I said, that the Auburn, the Arkansas, the A&M, where they did not look like a top 4 team by any stretch of the imagination. And if it wasn't for pulling a 4th in a country mile off a miracle catch by Isaiah Bond, we're not having this conversation right now.
You're right, but I can also inverse it the other way and say Alabama's had the best performance all season and dominant and controlling their game against Georgia. Controlling their game. They didn't dominate, but they controlled the game. They were decidedly better.
Yeah. And then that also comes down to the argument that I don't think Georgia was the number 1 team. I think that they were number 1 in the fact that they were back-to-back defending national championships and they were undefeated going into that game. But I saw chinks in Georgia's armor all year long. I know you'll disagree with that.
So what team was better than Georgia up until that point? That was clearly better than Georgia. Was it Washington, Michigan, Ohio State?
I would say Michigan, yes. Ohio State, yes. Washington, comparable.
See, to me, Mark, when people accuse me of SEC bias, to me is just hilarious. Because Georgia played Ole Miss and absolutely torched the living soul out of them, okay?
The Ole Miss I give you. I give you Ole Miss, but that was pretty much the only game where I said that was impressive. Tennessee is a shell of itself. In fact, the fact that they're ranked beyond me. I thought they barely beat a questionable Missouri team.
Oh, hang on, Mike.
Questionable Missouri.
Now we're starting to delve into an area where if we're going to compare the teams that you're trashing and put them in the Big Ten, okay, Missouri, I'm not selling Missouri as some all-time great team or anything. They're one of the 15 best teams. Shoot, they're ranked 9th. And they're one of the 15 best teams in America. They're easily that. And Georgia, they weren't taken to the wire. It was a good football game. It was a 30-21 game. They played the 4th quarter basically in a comfortable place. It wasn't, again, they didn't dominate, but they weren't threatened down to the wire. And I know this will get some laughs, but beating Kentucky by 30, like they annihilated Kentucky as bad or worse than Ole Miss, probably worse since it was right from the first drive where it took a while against Ole Miss. It was really good first quarter, 14 all.
Thanks, Mark.
It was from
Kentucky's
the get-go.
not good though.
I know they're not good, but are they as good as Maryland? Are they as good as fill in the blank in the Big Ten?